On the screen here is a picture of Arnold Schoenberg, who in chapter 16 of his famous textbook called The Fundamentals of Musical Composition, he pointed out in chapter 16 of that book that it's not easy to pin down exactly what a scherzo is. These points, in fact, summarize all that he, Schoenberg, was able to definitely say about most examples of the form, with special emphasis on the last two characteristics. So in this video, in an attempt to illustrate all of these points, we'll be examining a short scherzo of Beethoven's, specifically the one from his 15th Piano Sonata in D major, opus 28. Here's a basic diagram of the scherzo we'll be examining. As you can see, it's ternary, or A, B, A prime, and the Roman numerals below indicate that the first A section is based in tonic and dominant, which in this case is D major and A major respectively, whereas the middle or B section is characterized by an unstable sequential modulatory pattern, represented by this wavy arrow, and part 3, labeled here as A prime, is based in the tonic. Here's the score of part 1. We can see right away that it satisfies the first two of Schoenberg's criteria, as it's obviously an instrumental work and in a brisk tempo as well. Let's have a listen to it. We just listened to a parallel period with varied repetition, which ended on a strong cadence in A major, the key of the dominant. The main thing here is that everything is square and orderly, which Beethoven intends to exploit through contrast in the middle or B section. In a regular minuet, we might expect the middle section to stay in the key of A major, since again, we just ended part 1 with a strong cadence implying that key, and then to return to D major for part 3, which would be the return, either exact or varied, of part 1. But this is a scherzo and not a minuet, and the middle section is basically a modulatory sequential pattern, a sort of tiny development. Let's listen. That's the entire middle section, ending on an inverted dominant 7th chord of the home key, which easily allows the return of the opening material. But this material isn't exactly the same as it was the first time around. Specifically, whereas part 1 made its way to the dominant, A major, and ended there, part 3 is entirely in D major, which serves to harmonically balance out the unstable part 2, or B section, that Beethoven just took us through. There's actually a slight emphasis on the supertonic here, which is a close relative of the subdominant, and like that chord serves to cool things off further for this homecoming. The section is also stretched out some, making it less square than its predecessor, part 1, but not as aimless as part 2. Let's listen to this part 3. So, returning to those earlier points, we can see that even this scherzo, which Schoenberg lists in his textbook as a textbook example, even this one doesn't fill all of the model requirements. This is strange, since it seems Beethoven hardly ever neglects to throw in a syncopation or two in his scherzos, but it just goes to show that a flexible attitude is important when doing analysis. Nevertheless, this little piece is a good, succinct illustration of what it means to be a scherzo, but if you want a larger, more real-life scherzo as an example, then please stay tuned for the next video in this series. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is Cliff Pynchon. So long for now.